just have a day where we can kind of just, what's the word I'm looking for? Just be in a world where we kind of just like we praise each other. Because a lot of times we don't always get that pat on the back. So I want to commend everybody on this call, those of you who may watch this later, and thank you for your service. A lot of you have been doing this work longer than I have. I've been in this position at Westside Health Authority since October of 2018. And I have had the privilege of working and learning from some great men and great women. Those that come to mind, Roger Eman, who is my director of adult services and reentry here at Westside Health Authority, George Salter, who also was the one who hired me and brought me on, and then Charles Perry, who's also my mentor. So these three gentlemen and a host of other people that are on this call and not on this call have been very intricate in helping me develop to be able to be impactful to the men that we service. So part of what I do, or what I was doing before this pandemic hit, is I had the privilege to go into Sheridan Correctional Facility. Now that would be 3 times a month for pre-release, and then also we would do re-release. So we would go in and actually go into the cell blocks, talk to the men about resources, talk to them about opportunities, but also talk to them about really changing the mindset and having a purpose once they step out those doors. Because it's easy to walk in one light, but when you get out those doors, you may see a whole nother light. So we want them to have focus. We want them to be driven. We want them to have passion about themselves, about their purpose, about what they can do and what type of impact they can have once they start to accomplish goals. So we set standards, we made resumes, we built a rapport so strong that even though we weren't able to go into the prison except for January and February of 2020, those men still came to the West Side to come work with us because of the message that we instill when we go into the Sheridan Correctional Facility. So it would be myself, it would be Roger Eman, my director, it would be two of the individuals from CSAC South, and then CSAC North would go to SWIC to do their outreach. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't had the chance to go into tasks and do our integrated staffing, which we would do every month. We're still working out the kinks with that. But there's a lot of different parts of what we do. So before I really start this meeting, we always start our meeting with prayer. And I want to just a real quick prayer. I mean, it's a good year. We have a new president. We have new goals. And I want to share some of that with you today. I don't want to take up 2 hours because I can talk. But I definitely want to highlight some of the things that we were able to accomplish this year, even in this pandemic. And then also really talk about what goals we want to have going into this year. So Happy New Year, everybody. And then I'll start this prayer. God, thank you for allowing us to see another year. Thank you for allowing us to remain in good health, to have strength, to have the ability to see, walk, talk, hear, taste, feel, love, to be an inspiration and be an impact on those that we work with every single day. I ask you to continue to walk and work with everyone on this call and those who are not on this call, to give them the strength to do what you have created us to do in your name. Amen. So I'm gonna give everybody the opportunity. If you can, please just introduce yourself and let us know who you are, what you do. Keep it as brief as possible so that we can get through this. And again, my name is Joseph Green. I am the coordinator for reentry services with IDOC, CSAC West, West Side Health Authority. And I'm glad to be here. And anybody can take it.
Hi, Kevin Woods, Safer Foundation, Outreach Coordinator, Community Organizer.
Hi, my name is Toy Beasley. I'm with TASK, Treatment Alternatives for Safer Communities, and I am the Reentry Support Coordinator statewide.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tisa Morris. I am Director of Community Engagement for Sheriff Dart's office. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Miata Johnson. I'm a lead case manager with TASK. My internet service is going in and out, so I wanted to try to speak fast. But again, my name is Miata. I am with TASK.
Good morning. My name is Robert Walker. I'm with Ignite, formerly known as Teen Living Programs. I am the Assistant Director of Transitional Housing.
Hi, my name is Alex Galvan. I'm with Chicago Hopes for Kids, and I am the Outreach and Family Engagement Administrator.
Good morning. My name is LaShawna Burnett. I'm with Christian Community Health Center, and I'm the Outreach Enrollment Coordinator.
Hello, my name is Colin Andrews. I work with Tisa Morris at the Sheriff's Office. I'm a project manager.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name's Dana Marcoux. I'm a senior United States probation officer here in the Northern District of Illinois, Chicago, and I am the reentry specialist.
Hello, my name is Melissa Odell, and I'm the Executive Director of Defy Ventures Illinois, and we provide pathways to financial independence for people who are currently and formerly incarcerated.
Hi, I'm Dolores Cole. I'm Outreach Coordinator with Legal Aid Chicago.
And I'm Regina Hernandez. I'm a supervisory attorney at Legal Aid Chicago.
Don't be shy now. Come on now. Going once, going twice. Come on now. It's a couple more people. Rodney States, how you doing, sir? If you can't talk, just put it in the chat and let us know where you're from. But welcome. All right, Illinois Department of Employment Security. Anybody else?
Mr. Green, did you guys hear me before my computer cut off?
Yeah, we heard you, right? Didn't we hear you? Yes. We did hear you. How do you spell your first name? I'm sorry.
It's Miata. That's M-I-A-T-A, Miata.
Okay, M-I-A-T-A. Welcome. All right, so I'm gonna assume everybody spoke. Everybody introduced themselves. Okay, it's all good. I understand. So before I introduce our guest speaker, and I didn't say I had a guest speaker, I just wanted to surprise you with the guest speaker. And the great thing is that I do record the Zoom call so that if those who are not able to attend are not able to be here, they can watch it later But before I do that, I just wanted to kind of talk about, you know what, our host is not on either. So Above and Beyond Family Recovery Center, usually Miss Hernandez would be on this call, Melissa Hernandez, and she would basically, you know, kind of talk about what Above and Beyond does, the different programs that they have, the different services that they have. Unfortunately, she's not on the call today, but it's a great place and they're doing great work. A lot of the men that we have had service with from Sheridan usually attend and do their program, their substance abuse or whatever service there. And they've graduated and they're doing great things. So I wanted to highlight some of those things of 2020, because though there's been a pandemic, though everything that's been happening, you may say, well, it's been hard to do a lot of things. We're working remote, we're at home, which we have done as well. We have been out in these streets and we've done a lot of work. We've collaborated with a lot of organizations, and I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't highlight some of those things and talk about them for the next umpteen minutes. So I wrote down a list and I checked it twice. And I just wanted to go over some of the things that we were able to accomplish. And then I want to also, after that, just leave the floor open for anybody who has any announcements. If you have any opportunities for individuals, if you have any resources that you would like to share. Again, you can always reach out to me personally. Ms. Mobley needs a link. Can you give me a second to send her a link? I will send her a link. I usually don't do this. I would usually ignore that email, but I know her. That was a joke. See this. All right. So I have sent her link. So January of 2020, we started a reboot of our ARC transitional house. So this is our transitional house here at Westside Health Authority. It's located at 5422 West Division. We have video that we created that we sent to IDOC along with our reentry video to kind of give people, the men, an idea of what to expect if they were to come into our transitional home. There is requirements, there is a lot of discipline, but then there's a lot of opportunity to become debt-free, to learn how to build your credit, to not only find a job, but find a career, to find your purpose, and then take those resources that you have received and go out into the world and make your dreams come true. I can't sit here and say that every person that stayed in the ARC house has had success, but those individuals, we're still working with them. We're still trying to help them get over their obstacles. But those who have come through the ARC house and who have had success, you've seen that success. I've had them on calls. I've had them talk about their life and what they've accomplished. And I ask you, if you have a chance, check out those videos because we highlight some of those men. We've had men go to the CTA Second Chance program. We have an 80% rate of those who make it through the 12-month apprenticeship go on to work for the CTA and have permanent positions and start careers. And that could be said for every other organization that has an opportunity with the CTA Second Chance program. It's a great program, but every person that comes through our door, they may have a background that will not allow them to be in there. So we've worked hard with different transitional job programs. We've connected with so many different organizations. And the goal this year is to kind of get more people with a entrepreneurial mindset to think more outside of the box. So organizations like Defy Ventures and Sunshine Enterprises come to mind because they have entrepreneurial programs. We want to influence and we want to encourage these men and women to look at what they can possibly do and what type of careers they can manifest now and then maybe build a business later on. So the ARC House has been part of that program. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19, we haven't seen anyone over the last 4 months. Most men and women have been getting parole straight home, or they've been going to Haymarket or more larger facilities. But I have a bunch of letters from guys who are ready to come, and our doors open if they're ready, because the ARC House isn't for everybody. You know, there are rules, but we want to encourage them if they have the goal to change, then we will work with them. And even if they're not ready, when they do get ready, that has always been the goal and the mindset. Legal Aid Chicago, who was on the call, we partnered with them at the beginning of January. We had just a great vision of how we wanted to bring these services to the West Side. And we have been doing that work. I want to highlight Ms. Capricia Martin, who's on the call, who is our intake specialist over at our 5422 building. She has been doing the work. You know, we haven't gotten the traffic that we would like, but hopefully when you hear what Ms. Hernandez has to say, you find out that there are so much work and so many opportunities for our returning citizens so that we can help them in many different ways. Okay? If you just came in, please put yourself on mute. All right. Our partnerships with the Greater Food, Chicago Food Depository, Bobby E. Wright, Above and Beyond, Safer Foundation, Just Housing Coalition, Austin Coming Together. It's just a few, just the name. Legal Aid Chicago, the work that we've been able to do in the streets through working with clients. And there are a lot of other organizations that we have partnered with that we want to do more work. And like I said, what Charles was saying last week is that we want to share these resources so that they are a benefit to everybody. Since I've sat in this chair, I don't care about credit. All I care about is impacting those lives that need it the most. That is the goal. That has always been the goal. That's going to be the goal, to empower those who need it the most, men and women. So if you would like for me to come out to your organization, talk to you about a more in depth about what we do, we can do it over Zoom, however you want to do it. This year is outreach year. And I will be contacting everybody on this call in one shape or fashion over the next couple of months to work with you to find out what we can do to be more of an impact. Not just on the West Side, through the whole city of Chicago, through the whole state of Illinois. COVID relief. Our partnership with the Greater Food Depository has allowed us to feed, we've passed out over 1,500 boxes of food to those in the community that need it the most. I have to give kudos to the Overcomers volunteers. Since this summer, we've served over 2,000 plus plates. We were serving like 80, 100 plates over the summer to people. It's kind of died down because it's cold outside. The bad thing is that we couldn't bring them inside. Usually our Overcomers dinner is every Thursday from 2:30 to 4 p.m. at our site, 5816 West Division. This allows us to bring them in to have a hot meal, and it sucks right now to have to serve them outside and it's cold. It was a nice day yesterday, but it's getting cold. Imagine if they had to be out there today to get plates and you have to eat in the cold because you don't have anywhere to stay, you don't have anywhere to live. So these are the circumstances that we're dealing with. If you are interested in volunteering, I would love for you to come out and help. So Melissa Hernandez, I know they're not on the call, Maria Moon, I definitely appreciate all of the work that they did throughout the summer. Maria Moon is still with me. She was here yesterday. So I really appreciate everything because I can't do it alone. And I really needed the help this year because pushing the plates out the front door is just a whole different experience. It was almost like a restaurant every Thursday. You just have to see it. Our Sheridan clients, as I said earlier, we haven't seen them in over a year, but that bond, that rapport that we built with them, it lasted. I just got a call an hour before the call from a guy. He been home since August. I'm like, why you just calling me now? But he still called me. Sometimes guys and women, when they come home, they want to do it themselves. And they're so like pent on, I got to do it myself. I got to do it myself. And not realize you waste time because these resources are here for you, right? So we want to encourage them to not waste time. Get on it now. So you're not 6, 7, 8 months down the line trying to get somewhere. But when they come, they come. And that's the great thing, that they still are coming. Winner Circle. I want to shout out Mr. Beasley for all the work that he's doing, creating these winner circles, empowering us to be able to one day create winner circles in our community and really build a structure. I mean, individuals are still dealing with trauma. They're still dealing with problems. They're still dealing with issues. Even though you got a job, you're making money, you still having issues. So the winner circle is a place where people can sit down, have engaging conversations and talk about real life situations. And then talk to people who are like-minded that are going through the same things, people who have overcome those things. So I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted that. Earlier, I think around September, CSAC West, CSAC North, we came together with Terrence Hill from the Illinois Department of Corrections. We sat down, we had real conversations about things that we wanted to do in 2021. I wish he was on this call because I wanted to make an announcement, but I won't make the announcement until I have his approval. But there are big things that we're working on early 2021, along with the Congressman Danny Davis. Have to highlight him, the fatherhood in the neighborhood. This is an every year event that we would go to. We couldn't do it this year, right? So we had to change up the whole format. Instead of going down to the prison with families and taking them down there to see their loved ones, we had to do everything on Zoom. So we had a call with a lot of different individuals from all different organizations, men talking to men about taking the next step in their lives. And I was very privileged to be in that room with the congressman and all these different individuals who've been doing this work. You know, they've been doing this work, and encourage those men. That video has been shown all across the Illinois Department of Corrections, all through the state of Illinois. So hopefully we can start doing more things like that. We cannot allow a virus or allow things to stop us from doing the work, you know? And if you have ideas about different ways to do this work, share so that we can be more efficient, so that we can be more effective in what we're trying to do. That's the goal of the Community Support Advisory Council. To come together and share resources, to come together and be impactful to the people that we serve. Yeah, Terrence Hill, we do have an announcement, but I'm not gonna make it right now. So I wanna open the floor up There's a lot of other things I could talk about, but I didn't talk enough. I want to open the floor up for anybody that has an announcement. Like Mr. State says, he put everything in his chat. So if you have information and you can't talk, let's talk about it now. Any announcements? I know Mr. Woods, you had something, maybe you want to announce that to everybody. And
Yes, and
anybody else, they can go right, it can piggyback right behind you.
yes, and thank you, Joseph. I don't know if everyone is aware of the Revival Resource Fair that is being taken place on the west side of which is Jackson and Pulaski by District 11 CAPS, where resources are being given to the community or anybody that's coming to set a footstool in their new life for 2021 with a career opportunity or employment. It's held 24 hours a day, all the way up until February the 17th. But I would like to invite everyone on the 15th to come and have lunch with us, the Safer Foundation, and invite some of your volunteers that is working for your organizations that is looking for opportunity for training and employment. If you need any questions answered, please give me a call at 773-703-0689. Thank you and have a blessed day.
What day is that lunch on, Kevin?
Pardon me?
What day is that lunch on? To get
February the 15th.
Okay.
Anyone that you know that is looking for training opportunities or career opportunities, let them know about it.
Yes, thank you.
Right. Anybody else have any announcements, anything you want to discuss? You have the floor to let them know, because a lot of people may not know what's going on. Like there are a couple people that are new on this call.
Hi, my name is Toy Beasley, and I'm with TAS, a treatment alternatives for safer communities. Joseph already hit on a lot of what I do, the Winter Circle, but I just want to elaborate more on the Winter Circle because we are virtually. Joseph had posted that on his email when he sent it out to you. So the Winter Circle is virtual, Zoom, and all the information on that flyer is on there. So if you know some of your clients we serve in the community that needs a support group, that's so important. Joseph hit it on how a lot of our men and women get out of prison and they got untreated trauma. He said they get that job, they will get an apartment, but how do they keep it? And I believe that we don't talk enough about recovery support. It ain't got necessarily be Winter Circle. It could be AANA. It could be Celebrate Recovery. It could be your local church. We need to really engage our men and women on how to activate or utilize recovery support, because it's important. You know, me being a returning citizen, I've been out for 20 years. And all those 20 years, I rely on my recovery support. I still have some type of recovery support, and I've been in our system for 20 years. So that's how I maintain the issues, the things that I'm going to. So I preach that so much because it's so important. And also too, we have a Winter Circle Facebook page called Winter Circle Peers Facing Life Struggles. And I will put that in the chat. You're welcome to join that group. That Winter Circle Facebook page is for individuals to post your flyers. We do Facebook Lives every week where we get somebody in the community that is doing awesome things. They can talk about, you know, what they do with their agency to maybe refer individuals to your agency. Post your flyers. And also too, we have just different topics we pop up, encouraging words. I also post videos of different things that can help our clients to navigate the things they go into. And so I created these platforms because I think it's so important that we stay involved, especially this critical time of COVID-19. It's so important that we take care of our emotional well-being, and that's why I created this, so we can help take care of our emotional well-being. If you have any questions, anything that you may ask to follow with me, I will put my email in the chat box. You can email me to help get connected to the Winter Circle Facebook page, or refer some of your clients to this Facebook page, to this Winter Circle Zoom, to help them navigate the issues they may be going through in life. And this is all, the group is all peer-led. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I put the link already in the chat already. So I put the link in there for Winter Circle. I also put the link in there for Facebook. Sometimes I'll post in the face, I'll send out the blast email, and then somebody will send me something, hey, send this out. So a lot of times, if you can, because I know a lot of people, they may not use social media, or they may not want to connect their social media to that. It's a private site. It's only for like-minded individuals and for our returning citizens. So if you have information that you want to share, or if you want to, put somebody in a position that needs that information, then I encourage you to join both of the pages, to be honest with you. Join both. Because what he's talking about is real, because there's a lot of people who, they have that success, and then sometimes can't deal with the success. I know somebody right now, they having so much success, and it's like, oh, I can't deal with it. And for me, I'm like, huh? But I'm not them. I'm not dealing with the issues that they have had to deal with. So it's just something to think about, and it's a great opportunity for you to collaborate with a lot of like-minded individuals. And then also you may be impactful to somebody that you never thought you would be. Is there anybody else that has any announcements, any little thing that's going on that you want to share? Please do, or if you want to let us know what you're doing. Because once I introduce Miss Hernandez and she take this floor, it's over. Go ahead, Miss Berry.
Now they got us doing Microsoft Teams sometimes, and Microsoft Teams icons are backwards. So now I got to go back to like Zoom. Anyway, I just want to let you know that I have a client I sent a video out into all the prisons, because we used to go into the prison. So when I sent the video out, I had a gentleman that got out of Lawrenceville, I believe. He's now in Springfield. And the problem is being locked up 30 years, they don't even know how to use a phone. And so a lot of stuff is over the air now. So I'm trying to connect this gentleman with somewhere he can walk into. Does anybody, I know there's a geo group in Springfield, so I may send him over there, but he's like lost, and he calls me every day, and it's like, I'm not in Springfield, so it's hard for me, but I've kind of developed some rapport with him. I'm trying to help him with his driver's license, because someone used his driver's license and got a DUI in his name while he was incarcerated. And so I'm trying to help him. Does anybody have any connections in Springfield where he can actually walk in besides the geo group? Because I know about them. So if anybody knows of a walk-in place currently operating right now where I can actually have him physically go there, please let me know. I see you're writing that down, Joseph. Thank you. He has a lot of anxiety. A lot of these guys are having a lot of anxiety, and things have gotten even more difficult because of COVID-19. So I find myself not just a DUI evaluator counselor, I'm helping them with so many other things. So I appreciate all these programs that I can refer people to as well, guys. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's all. Anybody have any questions about Counseling First, about what we do?
And
We
she does
really
a lot.
focus on EB wise.
You say you in the Springfield area?
No, I'm looking for someone that this gentleman in Springfield who just got out of prison after 30 years can go to, because everything's online now and he's lost. I want him to be able to go into a program. Like, I'm going to start having people come back inside again to my office now that COVID is letting up the vaccine. But I think he really needs to go in person somewhere to get help. And he's very eager and he's working too. So he just needs guidance and counseling. Anybody know of anybody, let me know.
I sure will. I'm familiar with the Springfield area, so I will reach out to you. I got a couple of different options that may help. I put my email in the chat to you. So there's a couple
Can
different
I give
things.
him your phone? Is there a phone number?
Yes. Yes, I put it in the chat and he can call me directly.
Yeah, he's learning.
Yeah.
I think people are trying to help him and he has so much anxiety. So can I please have him call you?
Yes.
That would be great. Thank you so much. I
Mhm.
will do that. Thanks, everybody.
All right, anybody else? All right, so I would like to introduce our guest speaker for today. Now, usually we would have 2 guest speakers and 1 inspirational speaker, but I wanted to keep it like an hour and a half at the most. I didn't want it to go over 2 hours, but if it does, that's what we're here for. I love to hear the conversation. I love for you guys to engage. I love for you to talk about what you do and how you may have resources that we may need. And this next guest speaker has resources that everybody on this call is going to need. She's very passionate about the work that she does. I've only met her early, about maybe 10 minutes before the call, but I've heard some great things about her from Ms. Cole, but I would like for her to kind of toot her own horn, so to speak. But I would like to introduce Ms. Regina Hernandez, and she's the supervisory attorney for Legal Aid Chicago. You have the floor, ma'am.
Well, thank you, first of all, and good afternoon, everyone. I am so just honored to be here, and I appreciate being welcomed into this group and to have the opportunity to really talk about the services that we've been providing and specifically what we are working on and what my passion project over the last what feels like forever, but really dedicated solely to the project of criminal records relief over the last 1.5 to 2 years. It's been something near and dear to my heart that started with doing juvenile work. And it's something that quickly grew because just doing that work alone made me immediately recognize that having a juvenile arrest often led to quite a pattern and a relationship with law enforcement and led to multiple other consequences for my clients. And it was something that was very quickly recognized as an immediate need that needed to be addressed. So the project has grown significantly, and I'm so just honored every day to be working on it. I'm not sure if I have the ability to share my screen. Let me check. Yes, I do. Great. I wanted to, of course, make this a conversation, but wanted to be able to provide some additional context as well for the work that we're doing and try to summarize it as best as I could. But please feel free to interject. Like I said, this is a conversation and really an opportunity for us to discuss the services that Legal Aid Chicago is providing, but also I love this area of law. I get pretty frustrated and upset with it every single day in an incredibly motivational way that keeps me going, that keeps me working. So I could talk about it all day. So if you have any questions or comments along the way, please let me know. In general, just so you understand who we are, Legal Aid Chicago has been providing free legal services to people who cannot afford an attorney for the last 50 years plus. We deal in multiple different legal areas, in a wide range of kind of legal areas that are civil, but criminal records relief kind of falls in that in between. It's technically this administrative process, but for something criminal, and it's something that we're really excited to provide. And one of the benefits of working with us, and something that I feel truly blessed to be able to provide, is a really individualized experience for each client. Because we deal with 5 main big practice areas at our agency, and we're a fairly large staff of attorneys and support staff, if that person is identifying some additional goals or issues that they have, which is incredibly common for someone with a criminal record in particular, we want to be able to refer that internally and try to deal with that particular person in a holistic way. We don't want to just kind of be one and done with that particular client. We want to address as much as we can. Now, if there is something that is outside of our wheelhouse that we cannot handle for any reason, we certainly will refer out, and we have a number of really incredible referral partners that we work with to provide additional services. But we are out there still doing this work every single day. This pandemic has not really slowed us down. There are challenges that we have faced as it pertains to the court systems in general, but we can talk a little bit more about that later in terms of overcoming those challenges. But what you should know about us is that we are a large agency, one of the largest in the Midwest, and we are really resource rich in terms of what we can provide to clients, and especially those who come to me for criminal records relief. We want to provide a really fulfilling, holistic experience and try to address as many needs as we can. I don't need to tell this group why this is important, but one of the reasons that I bring this statistic up and this data up, in addition to highlighting to others who may not recognize the importance of this work, is to help some of those clients who come to me trying to explain themselves or trying to contextualize their arrests, or who feel embarrassed that unfortunately they are far from alone, and that the consequences, I understand, are very real. And that I recognize, and that our agency recognizes, that the bigger goal here is getting past the barriers that those arrests and those convictions that are now just essentially this kind of stain on their record, on their permanent record, are really creating, and we want to overcome them. There are over 1,000 unique permanent punishment laws and regulations that are impacting somebody to really just access fundamental needs. And this takes the form in all sorts of restrictions as to the types of licenses you can acquire, financial support, housing, education, and of course, employment. And just kind of touching back on why we have to address multiple different legal areas is that it can create this domino effect of one of these areas being something that the barrier of a criminal record has deeply affected, and it really just kind of knocks down multiple other areas of that person's life. So we recognize that, and we want to make sure that people understand who come to us that we see that as well, and we recognize it, and we want to help. One of the first things, no matter where somebody goes, anywhere in the state of Illinois, one of the first things that you're going to need to try to overcome the barriers that criminal records impose are a copy of your criminal records. When you come to Legal Aid Chicago, and just as a point of clarification, Legal Aid Chicago can only serve people who have legal issues in Cook County. If they live out of state or out of county, but one of their arrests is in Cook County, that counts, that's fine, we can still handle that. But we need to only deal with arrests and convictions that were in Cook County. So for us, The first thing that we will ask you to do is get a copy of your rap sheet. The thing to understand about rap sheets and just records in general, especially in Cook County, and this is true in multiple other counties and municipalities, but especially speaking from experience in Cook County, rap sheets and records are incredibly inconsistent, but are necessary as part of the process. So you have a local rap sheet and an Illinois statewide police report as the two main things that I'm really looking for when somebody first comes to me. The reason that I ask for both is because theoretically, an Illinois statewide police report, just in name alone, makes it seem like it's going to include everything that's ever happened to you in the state of Illinois. However, not everything is required to be forwarded to the Illinois State Police. Additionally, with a local rap sheet, if you go to CPD headquarters and you get a copy of your CPD rap sheet, it will include everything from local municipalities that use the same system as CPD. So it may not include some Will County arrests, anything in any other jurisdiction. And it's important to capture all of this because one of the things about adult records in particular, or records that generally were created when you were 18 and over, one of the important things to keep in mind is that the determination for eligibility can be extremely complicated. And we have to look at other jurisdictions to help determine eligibility, even just within Cook County, particularly when it comes to convictions. So it's important that we try to capture as much data about that individual as possible. And really the way I like to see it and the way that I tell my clients is, hey, if it exists out there about you, I want to see it, I want to catch it, I want to get rid of it. So we always want to cross-reference and do our homework and do our records research and do a really thorough job of making sure that we are getting everything that we can. Because an important thing to keep in mind, and one of the biggest things that I have to stress to people in my own community is, if you are arrested, that creates a record. Even if you were released without charging, even if you were a juvenile and you got sent home, it doesn't necessarily mean that that record goes away automatically. A record is created if you are arrested. And that is so important to keep in mind because that likely means that there is something to do about it. One of the biggest things to understand about criminal record rap sheets is no matter what it is, if it's an Illinois statewide police report, or if it's a local arresting authority rap sheet, like a CPD rap sheet, they are regularly incorrect. And I try to ask people not to get too tripped up about that because they get very concerned, and understandably so, that this rap sheet, has their mugshot and a list of aliases and their birthday is wrong. And it says all sorts of things about them that may not be true. It is so common. We constantly have to sort through that. Generally speaking, one of the more reliable factors that we cross-reference is called an IR number, which is that person's fingerprint number. And generally that means that that is what is associated with you. So even if your name is, Emilio, and they have you down as like Aaron or something like that, if the fingerprint matches, and generally you don't have any reason to believe that that wasn't you, and that either the cops just didn't care about your name, or you gave them a different name at the time, or any number of factors, that fingerprint is generally the thing that's most consistent. So it's going to matter just for the purposes of making sure that we're capturing everything that's potentially associated with you. But again, we tell people, try not to get too tripped up on that. We take those rap sheets and we really take the time to dig through them and make sure that we're getting the most correct information that we can. And generally the records that we really adhere to, the things that are just kind of the last word on the matter, are any cases that were ultimately filed as it pertains to that arrest. So whatever the clerk system says as it pertains to the arrest date and what the final charges were, that is what we have to go by as the final word 99% of the time. We always stress this, and this is part of what initially takes a bit of time when you first come to us, we cross-reference everything. So I'm looking at the CPD rap sheet, making sure that there's nothing on there that's not on the Illinois statewide police report. And then I'm cross-referencing both with what's in the clerk system. And then I run your name and date of birth through the clerk system to make sure that nothing else got missed, that there's nothing just existing in solitary in the clerk system, because it does happen, especially for arrests that occurred that are a little bit older, like in the 80s or 90s. That happened all the time. And I've found clients who the only thing that matched was like the birthday and the name, but no other identifying information. And they had a pretty unique name. So it was hard to miss that it was Abraham, Moses, or whatever it is. And I want to make sure that anything that could potentially come up in a public search, that I catch it. I also want to stress that when somebody sees a rap sheet, it can be really intimidating, and it can be, I think, something really negative on that person's just psyche to see that, especially the way that they refer to people. I don't use the term convicted felon, even though CPD does, as a big stamp on that person's rap sheet. I really want to stress to people not to self-select themselves out. When they see this long rap sheet of all these arrests, don't think that there's nothing to do, or that it's too long, or the charges are too serious. So much has changed just in the last couple of years alone, where when I first started doing this work back in 2015, there were times with clients that really devastated me, where I had to tell that person, I'm sorry, but you have one conviction on your record, which means nothing on your record is eligible to be expunged. And that was in 2015. But as of 2017, because of advocates doing the work that you all do, and grassroots movements, and just really passionate legislators, there was an expansion made and codified into law that really expanded what could be sealed, what was eligible, and allowed us to consider these arrests and convictions individually, where one doesn't necessarily impact the other. So when people would attend these big summits, like the big Dorothy Brown summits back in the day, and were told things like this that were really discouraging, or they were told they were ineligible, it's important to revisit that now, because so much has changed. If they were told no before, it's not necessarily true now. And so it's always really important to just double check, because the laws are different now, and you should communicate with an advocate as soon as possible. And that's why I have no doubt that my clients, if things were a little bit clearer on the clerk's page, that they can navigate this themselves. But it's not meant for people to navigate on their own. It really isn't. There's so much that I've learned just in practicing this every day that has been humbling and confusing. And I see the way that pro se litigants are often treated, and it's difficult. So use us. We are here. We are free. This is my life 24/7. Let me do it for you. Just to kind of summarize adult records in particular, because it is by far the more complicated of the two records between juvenile and adults. Juvenile, I can sum up very quickly. Most things are eligible for expungement, but for felony sex offenses and first-degree murder. Everything else is eligible, and it's free, and we will do it for you, and it's very forgiving. Adult records are public record. When you turn 18, even though I know when I was 18, I don't think I was very much of an adult, you are adult by the state of Illinois. And you and any interaction that you have with law enforcement at that point going forward is public record. And therefore it is easy to access. It is easily visible by just any number of internet searches, third-party background check companies, any number of ways. So that's when things get a little serious. the eligibility requirements with adult records are really complicated, and they're subject to different wait periods, and they're subject to more restrictions. And even though the laws have changed significantly, it's really something to think that they used to be significantly more restrictive than this. There are a number of offenses that could never be expunged or sealed. That includes minor traffic offenses. This gets a little bit technical, but if it's not a criminal traffic offense like driving on a suspended license, which technically by law is a Class A misdemeanor, if it's something like just speeding, which is just a traffic offense, those don't qualify for the process. But I can and will try to get rid of that driving on a suspended license because it is technically a criminal offense. DUIs are taken extremely seriously, and even if you got supervision, they are never eligible to be expunged or sealed. Domestic battery convictions are not eligible, neither are violations of any orders of protection related to those charges. Sex offense convictions, with the exception of prostitution and misdemeanor public indecency, and animal offenses, so generally cruelty to animal offenses. Another hurdle that I personally don't really like, because it is an additional burden on my clients, but it is still required by law, is that for any drug-related convictions that you are trying to seal, you must submit a clean copy of a drug test with the court petitions, and it has to have been taken within 30 days of filing those petitions. So generally what we ask for is just a 6-panel clean drug test. We've gotten a lot of questions about what if THC is in my system, because cannabis is legal now. I don't have a lot of data yet in court to really make a confident advisory claim to this one way or the other. But the thing I always tell my clients is, if you are over 21 and you have THC in your system, I will still fight for you. I will defend you. I will go head to head with whoever is trying to use that against you to seal this other conviction, because it is lawful and you are entitled. But it is still, expungement and sealing is still up to a judge's discretion, and I cannot control bias. And so what I always tell people is, although I will zealously advocate for you, always recognize that a judge can say for a number of different reasons, without citing that specifically, that they don't think that you have matured yet, or that there's a kind of public policy concern for getting rid of this record, and they still have a lot of discretion. And judges are human, and they are influenced by their emotions as well, and their own biases. So just keep that in mind. But generally, I'm happy to go to bat for you if that is something that is showing up on a drug test for you, generally speaking, if this is something that applies to you. Now, an important distinction that I have to make, because I have to toss out this language a lot, is with regards to the difference between expungement and sealing. It really comes down to an issue of whether it's a conviction or a non-conviction. And that is really the basic way to keep it straight in your mind. If it is a non-conviction, it qualifies for expungement. I never want to see something that is not a conviction on a petition to seal. Expungement is by far the best option for relief for somebody's offense. Non-convictions can include a number of different things, which is really important to distinguish, because it's not necessarily as simple as all charges were dismissed or a finding of not guilty, but it can come down to what you were actually sentenced with. So for instance, if you received a second chance probation or one of these other kind of special probations, as I like to kind of refer to them generally as, if you did everything the court asked you to do, then by law, that will not be considered a conviction, which is amazing, because then it puts it in that category for expungement. And expungement means it never existed. You can get rid of it completely. It is erased and it qualifies for the highest form of relief allowed. Now, convictions, on the other hand, can never be on a petition to expunge. And I've seen people try. And unfortunately, the way that the law is written is very specific, that a judge does not have discretion to be able to allow that, even if they want to. If something is a conviction, it only qualifies to be sealed, which generally means that it's hidden from public access. It is generally hidden from public and private entities, with some exceptions. And the important distinction here, and something really crucial to keep in mind that I hear from clients all the time, is convictions can mean a number of different things by law as well. So it doesn't just mean that you serve jail time. It could be time considered served, boot camp, probation is a big one that people don't understand as a conviction. And if you did not satisfactorily complete one of those special kind of slap on the wrist probations or supervisions, if you did not satisfactorily complete that, it turns into a conviction and thus is only eligible to be sealed. Also, one of the big kickers that always gets me is when I see fines. I see it all the time for like CTA offenses, like for quasi criminal offenses, where somebody was slapped with like a $50 fine for like public urination or jumping a turnstile, something like that. Technically, that is considered a conviction, and it only qualifies to be sealed. Again,
For real?
I know, trust me, I see a lot of ridiculous things. I once saw an arrest in Cicero for, I forget exactly how they phrased it, but offensive words. That's what it was. It was offensive words. So yes, and there was a quasi-criminal offense in Cicero at the time. It's difficult to navigate, and it comes down to the details. So for non-convictions, like I said, I only want to see those on petitions to expunge. Expungement means that those records are destroyed, they are impounded, and no private or public entities can see these expunged records. There are only some very small exceptions where law enforcement could see these. Now, sealing, on the other hand, that's where law enforcement could still see these records, and that's a really important distinction to make. However, even when I have to give clients the kind of bad news that unfortunately this only qualifies for sealing, a good majority of the time for what that client's goals are, and because I try to be very goal focused as I advocate for my clients, it really can accomplish exactly what they need to. So in general, let's say that person has a felony conviction and I'm able to successfully get that sealed. It will still come up if that person applies to work for Chicago Public Schools, for instance, because Chicago Public Schools is an entity authorized by law because of a public interest, you're working with kids, to see sealed felony convictions. Any agency that is authorized by law to conduct fingerprint-based background checks, which is different than just a name, date of birth, social security number background check, they will still be able to see those sealed felony convictions, which can be really disappointing to people, I understand, but otherwise, no private or public entities can see these sealed records. And it's really important to also note that juvenile records overall are already automatically sealed. There are a number of exceptions of who can see juvenile records. So I still always recommend, if it exists somewhere about you, let's get rid of it. I want to take care of the juvenile ones too. They do come up in a number of different ways. There are wait periods associated with adult records, and the hardest one to overcome, and the one that I really try to push out there as something that we can overcome and that if you know somebody who is currently serving a sentence or who is on parole, to tell them immediately is that to seal convictions, to seal any convictions on your criminal record, there is a 3-year wait period to seal any convictions on your record. And that clock starts ticking from the end of your last sentence of your last conviction in any jurisdiction. So what that means is, let's say I got arrested in 1990, convicted of just minor possession. I thought no big deal, never did anything about it. I just dealt with it on my record. And then last year, let's say I, got one of those fines for some kind of minor criminal offense, and I paid it, and that's done. That clock starts ticking again, and I won't be able to seal even that 1990 conviction until that wait period is over. The exception is, so for anybody who is currently serving a sentence or who is on parole, if you earn a kind of academic certificate like a GED, associate's degree, or a vocational certificate, so some kind of job training program, or getting any kind of licensing like getting your CDL or anything like that. The statute is actually pretty broad as it pertains to what type of certificate would qualify. You could easily waive that wait period. I do it all the time. It is valid, it works, and I try to get that message out there to anybody who's still on probation, supervision, who's on parole. I tell them, please go take an online course, go get your bartending license. I don't care what it is. Like, here's a list. Take something now, complete it now, because as soon as you are done then with your sentence, we'll be able to seal anything that is a conviction on your record. That is the most important one that I want to highlight, but it is good to also be aware of a 2-year wait period to expunge supervisions, because like I mentioned, supervisions, if completed satisfactorily, will not be considered convictions, but there is still a wait period imposed. It's kind of just this slap on the wrist mentality where they're like, well, you did it, we're going to cut you a break in terms of post-conviction relief, but we're going to make you wait a little bit for it. It's also 5 years to expunge supervisions for more serious offenses like domestic battery, because again, remember the distinction that domestic battery convictions do not qualify for any form of relief. But if supervision is completed satisfactorily, it is not considered a conviction. That's why it gets really technical, and that's why it's so important to have somebody experienced look over this for you, because it comes down to the details. So then it's 5 years to expunge supervisions for some of the more serious offenses if you were given supervision. What to expect with us. And this is important because I like to be fully transparent about what to expect, how long it takes, and just to generally know what this mutual relationship is. There are things that we need from a client, and there are things that we're making a promise to you that we're going to do. That rap sheet, I need something to go on. In only the rarest of circumstances can I get away with not having either an Illinois statewide police report or Chicago Police Department rap sheet. Specifically in District 1, which is Chicago, it's the only municipality in District 1 of Cook County's 6 municipal districts, is Chicago. They require that you attach a copy of your Chicago Police Department rap sheet to the petition that you file. I cannot proceed until I get a copy of those records. So if you call me, you ask for help, that is the first thing I need from you. Once I get that rap sheet, our paralegal, who's incredible, I cannot live without her or do this work without her, she will do an intake with you. And that's the other thing we need, because in addition to getting those records, we want to make sure that we are representing you. And in order to represent you, we need to register you as a client. So we need to do our own administrative work to make sure that we're processing you, that you're registered as a client, because then ultimately we start doing that legal research and start going through our processes, because the goal is fully representing each and every one of these clients in all of their criminal records matters. And right now, we are fortunately grant funded on this project, so there's no income limits. And but for just the limits of my capacity and sanity, we are taking these clients nonstop. We're intaking about 20 to 25 new clients every month, but it's a steady stream. We are doing this every day. And so we are just very committed to making sure that we are doing the best job that we can. And so we need to fully represent you to be able to do that. Because a lot of what we've noticed over the years, that's been just a hurdle and kind of a flaw in the system of individuals trying to do this themselves, as much as I believe that they can, is that there's so much that's even outside of our control as advocates in the larger systems at play, where unless you are very familiar with the court system, unless you are able to, connect directly with the clerk on a regular basis, there are a lot of things at play that are just impossible for the average person who has a life and a job and a family and a number of other obligations, where it's not their job every day to go navigate the court system. They're not going to be able to do on their own, in a way at least that won't make them pull their hair out, because we want to be attorney of record to help address some of the issues that pertain to what happens once we file. So first note, once we get everything that we need from you at this point, we start our legal research. So all of that stuff that I was talking about before, about making sure we cross-reference records, that we're capturing everything about you to make sure that if it exists, we put it on a petition for something, or at least try to determine eligibility for some form of relief. We want to make sure that we get that paperwork done. So one of the ways that we do this, and one of the only ways that we're able to do this kind of work in the volume that we do it, is we recruit pro bono attorneys. Volunteer attorneys, after we do the research work, they complete the petitions themselves. My staff prepares what we call case charts that basically translates everything that's on a person's rap sheet and in the clerk system, and puts it in like a nice clean chart that just puts only the information that you need for a petition and tells you exactly which petition that particular arrest should go on. We like to lay it out nice and plain for the volunteer attorneys. We literally just give that to them. They fill out the paperwork. And the next important thing that we need from a client is that when a volunteer actually contacts you to review what you are eligible for, that you actually reach back out to them and get in contact with them. Because we need to make sure that you're still involved in this process, because there's a lot more that needs to happen after this. And we need to make sure that we can get a hold of you, that over time, because this does take a while once we file, that you are still an active member in this process. And so we want this to be just kind of a checkpoint for us to communicate with you, make sure that if anything has changed in terms of your circumstances, you have a new number, new address, that we're checking in with you at this point and making sure that we have everything that that we need, and that you have everything that you need in terms of our contact information, who's who, all of that. Once that volunteer attorney goes over your paperwork and goes over your eligibility, then you will sign documents and get drug tested if that applies to you. If we don't get the documents back from you, we can't proceed. Those documents require signatures from the petitioners themselves. We can't sign them for you, unfortunately. Additionally, we cannot proceed without a drug test if that applies to you. So if you were told by that volunteer attorney that because we are trying to seal any kind of drug conviction, that you must provide a clean copy of a drug test before we file, we are not going to file. Even if you sign everything, we are not going to be able to file until we get that clean drug test. And we understand that even $25 can be a lot, especially right now. We will wait for you. We are not putting any pressure on you to do it right now. There are a number of different agencies and resources that we have connected people with over the years that can provide some small amount of support. The Safer Foundation has been great about that in the past in helping people with that who come to them. There's options, but we're not putting any pressure on people to shell out $25, which is still a lot of money in my opinion. Once all of that is done, once we get any drug test that you needed, once the documents are signed, we file for you. And we are attorney of record on those petitions. So there's no excuse that, oh, that person must have moved because, you know, usually the petitioner's address would be on there along with their phone number and email. It's always going to be Legal Aid Chicago with our permanent address. We haven't gone anywhere in a very long time and probably can't afford to go anywhere for a very long time. So 120 South LaSalle Street is us. And I or my supervisor are always attorney of record. We sign everything that we need to, and we are in contact with the clerks on a regular basis to check on status. Now, the other thing I got to be fully transparent about are the challenges with actually waiting for these petitions to be processed. In the suburban districts in 2 through 6, usually the wait is about 3 to 6 months, which is actually relatively reasonable. I still wish it was quicker, but given the amount of notice required to all parties who would be interested, so we have to provide notice to the state's attorney, to the local arresting authority, to the lawyer for the municipality, and the Illinois State Police, it's relatively quick. However, we have a problem in Chicago, unfortunately, where we are not hearing back for 12 to 14 months. I know, like my blood pressure has had issues because of this. I know. Things are moving again, slowly but surely. We are getting pretty crafty in how we navigate this, but it is just unfortunately the reality of this. The thing that I like to stress to people though, is how important it is that we are the attorney of record on those cases. Because what we've been able to do for those petitions that I've filed over a year ago now that I still have not heard back from, is we've been able to just mass put these on a list and just keep pounding at the door of the clerk's office, asking for updates, asking, find these files. What's the status on this? Was there an objection? And it hasn't been perfect, but we've continued to get statuses back where I know for a fact that there have been pro se litigants who have just never heard a word ever again. And they have just been in a pile somewhere, never to be heard of again. And people don't often know how to go about even asking, hey, what happened to my petition? So we are trying to do that work for you. We will then go to court for you. If there is a court date, I just got out of court earlier. It went great. I have yet to have a petition denied because I do my work beforehand. I do my homework beforehand because I want to avoid that. And I'm very honest with my clients about what is eligible, what's not, and you know what's up for judicial discretion and what's not. So I want to do my homework and I advocate for my clients and I get these granted. Once they are granted, we will get the orders for you. And those orders, those are the golden tickets. You keep those in a safe place, fireproof box, I don't care. We will always have a copy of those as well in your digital case file at our office. And if you have any additional needs, of course, let us know and you could come to Legal Aid Chicago for a number of different issues. Again, this was kind of the old slide where it was 8 to 12 months and now it's 12 to 14. I need to stress how important it is to take care of this as soon as possible, especially if you fall in that category of needing to file in Chicago because you were arrested in Chicago. Let's start it now. The sooner the better. We are getting these moving one way or another, as slow as it is. Now, let's think positively here. Once I get these granted, what happens in terms of that relationship with employers and how they ask you about these records? We do have a version of ban the box, but I want to always clarify to people that it's more complicated than one might assume by just thinking ban the box. Like, oh, that means that an employer can't ask me about anything, right? No, an employer cannot ask you about arrests, only convictions, and only after the initial job application process. So they can't ask you about convictions on that initial application to, you know, Jewel or the bank or wherever you're applying for. But once they've made a tentative offer, once they've interviewed you, the next thing I hear usually from a client is, oh, and then I got a call from HR, like they had offered me the job, but then they needed to do a background check. If your entire record has been expunged and or sealed, you may answer no to the question, have you ever been convicted of a crime? Except when that employer is authorized to conduct a fingerprint-based background check. And I've seen this come into play in particular with Chicago Public Schools being a big one recently, because I know through a lot of our community partners that a lot of staff has recently been subjected to a round of background checks that I guess had not been done in the past. And so even after working there for a number of years, are now getting these notices about things on their background. And if you fail to disclose, that's also an issue with CPS. So if you have a question about that afterwards, because I don't want to spend too much time on this, because it really comes down to that annoying lawyer answer of on a case-by-case basis, it really is important to ask an attorney, and probably one in employment that I can connect you to answer those specific questions and navigate that so that you're not saying anything that adversely affects you. And of course, the exception always is with juvenile records. Other than some very, very specific exceptions, nobody should be seeing these. What about cannabis? Everybody wants to know about weed. I do too. So the thing to know is that I understand how exciting it is and how progressive that this legislation was, which is fantastic. And so many advocates worked so hard to make that happen. And it is great, but it is still just the first piece of legislation that has a lot of implementation problems because it needs to be worked out. And it is a first step with a lot of work to be done. So automatic relief is being granted, but there are certain issues with it, like for all those non-convictions that fall into this kind of first category where there was a lot of news headlines about Governor Pritzker expunging all these records automatically, which is fantastic. But what the law actually says is that it's only getting rid of the law enforcement records. And so if that arrest resulted in a court case, there's nothing really said about if and when that court case got expunged as well, because there's no obligation on the clerk to do so. Additionally, for minor cannabis convictions, so those are typically those minor possession cannabis convictions, there is a pretty long process that is very, very technical, and that is happening as well. But there are so many exceptions to that, including really narrow parameters, like it can't be associated with any violent offenses, even if the violent offense was something that got dismissed. So if you got charged with battery and 10 grams of cannabis possession, and the battery got dismissed, but you got convicted of the small possession, just because of that battery charge being associated with it, it's not going to qualify for an automatic process. There is another option, though, that is available through something called a motion to vacate and expunge. However, that has been my biggest challenge to date. That is something I'm fighting about every single day because I have yet, through all, I think I have like 35 of them ready to go, I have yet to be able to successfully file one for a number of different reasons, including a judge flat out telling me that she wasn't going to hear it. There's a lot of misconceptions about the law. There's a lot of lack of clarity in terms of being on the same page of implementation. And the system has been quite overburdened. So I'm not trying to put this on any one person in particular or any one system. There's a lot of issues at play here. And so there's a lot of challenges with it. And it's really important to make sure that you have your full record reviewed so that we try to identify what still exists, what we should take action on, and know that for anything that we see that's cannabis related, we're still going to do something about it, and we're going to seek the highest remedy possible. What is the big takeaway? I said a lot of stuff. Come to Legal Aid Chicago, go to the walk-in at Westside Health Authority, speak to somebody, have your record reviewed. The worst that we can say is something isn't eligible, but one of the things that we are trying to do, and one of the goals that I have as being supervisor of this department and in hiring new staff, which I've been really fortunate to do because I was drowning. And I am so lucky now to have additional staff members to support this project and be able to provide the individualized assessment that I really wanted for all of my clients. Because I understand that this system for expungement and sealing, as being kind of the hot words that were floating around for a couple of years, I understand that that has been the popular thing, but I know that it's problematic, it takes a long time, and it may not be for everybody. So the other thing to know is that I'm always looking for other options. So we are also doing healthcare waivers if you are somebody who's specifically trying to overcome a conviction to work in the healthcare industry. The big one has been of late, a lot of clients have been trying to apply as a home healthcare worker because a parent or another family member used to have a healthcare worker before the pandemic, but was no longer able to have that. And they've been trying to take over as their parent's caregiver, but have encountered that conviction barrier. There's a specific waiver that you can file for that contextualizes that conviction and can overcome that barrier that is much quicker than expungement and sealing. We do certificates of good conduct. There's also something called a certificate of relief from disabilities, which is a name I hate. And what that means is just generally, it's a certificate very similar to a certificate of good conduct, which is just asking the court, hey, can you waive this for me because I'm trying to get my barber's license, my realtor's license, some very specific licenses. So it's really important that however you get to us and whichever advocate you end up with, to make sure that you're clearly identifying your goals. If you have something immediate going on, please let us know. We want to make sure that we're identifying that for you as well. So if you have any questions, I've just been talking, so I will check the chat as well, or if Joseph wants to help me out in terms of answering some questions. You could reach us anytime, but thank you for listening to me.
You gave everybody, I'm pretty sure, it's just like, because I'm like sitting here with my mouth wide open, not like that, but just really like, you know, you broke it down. Like so many questions, even over the last couple of years that I've had and didn't understand. And then now I have it like recorded so I can always like go back to this, or I can reach out to you or what have you, or anybody on this call can reach out to you.
And so I'd be happy to send you the PowerPoint itself as well, so you can search.
That would be great.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Regina, it's funny because the client I was talking to, I've been working with him for a while, and we've reached so many dead ends because all the court numbers that we got a hold of, nobody answers, no one calls you back. So can he call someone directly? How does he go to start the process of getting help?
To have his records reviewed?
Basically, somebody in Cook County got a DUI on his name and driver's license 30 years ago.
So that's a little complicated, and it's not something unheard of. One of the things that he should do, depending on how it's showing up, and it's likely showing up on an Illinois statewide police report, is if you get a copy specifically of your Illinois statewide police report, which can be a little tricky right now because it requires you to go to a live scan vendor or submit fingerprints.
I get the sworn reports from Springfield, the actual ticket. So I've sent off for that. So that'll actually show like where he was arrested. And he thinks that he should go to the police station where this person was arrested and proved with his own ID, fingerprints, and mugshot that it wasn't him. Is that right?
That's one way to try to go about it. I try to utilize the path of least resistance. And so the reason that I cite the Illinois statewide police report in particular is that when you get an Illinois statewide police report, when they mail it to you, the last page of that report includes a challenge page, and it says items to be challenged. And it's basically this form that you fill out that already has all your information pre-printed on there. And you can list exactly what the item that you're challenging is. And it tells you where to mail that along with any other mitigating evidence. And when they actually correct that, then that is something, that letter that they send you back is something that you can continue to distribute to any other agency that where this actually exists. So it's going to depend on that person in particular in his or her personal preferences of how to go about that, and depending on where the record of that DUI actually exists. So if it only exists with that local arresting authority, which for a DUI would be a little strange. I'm sorry?
30 years ago.
And 30, oh, that's a challenge too. But I mean, the best thing about, unfortunately, the best thing about that is that if he was imprisoned, like that's pretty strong evidence that he did not get a DUI.
I think he wasn't in at that time. I think it was just before he went in. But so I've challenged myself because it's been kind of slow in January to work through the process with him so I can learn, because other people have had this situation. And a lot of these clients can't afford a lawyer right now. So that's why I try to help them as much as I can. So is there someone he can talk to directly at legal aid, or you guys, or we're doing what we should do? I'm going to get the sworn report and we're going to contact the police station where the guy was pulled over.
What city or town was it? Springfield? That's where the arrest was?
He got the DUI in Cook County in front of the federal building.
Okay, so if it was a Cook County thing, just email the criminal records email that's on the screen right now. That's me and my paralegal. That's who answered that email.
So he needs his criminal records, or?
Let's just get in contact with him first, so we could just kind of talk him through that and hear from him exactly the timeline and all of that. And it'd be happy to have him
call you. And unfortunately, he's in Springfield. But since the DUI was in Cook County,
that falls under
why, like, you know, I didn't start working with him. I would have said, you know, that's why I want Toy to help him, because he's in Springfield for his reentry stuff. But since I'm in Cook County and I do DUIs here, I thought, you know, maybe I could kind of direct him to the right place. So I will definitely have him call you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. And that can be incredibly complicated. And there's a number of different routes to try to go depending on how the record is held, including actually filing an identity theft case. And it's really just going to depend on what that client's personal preferences are.
Okay.
What barriers he's currently facing that particular record is currently imposing, and what exactly happened, and just getting a little bit more information. So I'd be more than happy to speak with him.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
very helpful.
You said that the time frame for let's say like a healthcare waiver was shorter than the actual explain. What would be the time frame? Because there are a lot of people that we see who want to get in healthcare, but they have these blemishes on their record. So
the important thing to know about a healthcare waiver is that you only need it for unlicensed physicians. So like getting those certified nursing assistants, those kind of certification things that require you to register on the healthcare worker registry. And so somebody will usually tell you when you're applying for a job that you have been denied or will be denied because of a disqualifying conviction, which is another important distinction, that you may not even need it for that healthcare job because there's a list on the Illinois Department of Public Health or the healthcare worker registry site for the state of Illinois that has a long list of disqualifying convictions. And you only need to be concerned about it if you have a conviction that falls in that category. Now, if it does, and you're required to register and you have a disqualifying conviction, the thing that takes the longest amount of time really is just kind of putting it together. The great thing about it is that it's providing this kind of narrative that a lot of people don't often get to share, because with expungement and sealing, it's very technical, it's very just by the book. But with a healthcare waiver, I share narratives, I get letters of support for clients. I ask them, is like, hey, get a letter of support from your pastor, your friends, whoever, any certificates that you've earned, even, you know, certificates of appreciation, anything like that, that just shows that you're not a, quote, threat to public safety, because any job where you'd be required to have any contact with patients is likely to require you to register on the healthcare worker registry. But just putting that together takes a little bit of time, but it usually, they've been pretty quick with me. I know the pandemic has added some challenges, but pre-pandemic, they would get back to me within about like 6 to 8 weeks tops. And I think now maybe that's at like 10 to 12, but it's one of the few agencies that when I call them, somebody actually answers. So that's always encouraging.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
More questions? Yes, no, maybe.
Well,
There we go.
I'm just saying. Hey, Ms. Regina Hernandez, I just want to say thank you for explaining these laws that affect those who are impacted by the legal system. Also, I want to give you a shout out because you're accurate, very accurate, as far as the details in these laws. Also, and I want to thank you for being a part of the implementation of these laws, especially because me being directly impacted myself, I was actually a part of getting these bills passed, and I just wanted to be quiet and just listen. And plus, I haven't been involved since we got the ceiling expansion passed in 2016, August the 24th. I haven't been involved with the implementation process. So I was wondering if things have changed, anything has changed, or maybe someone went and fought and got some other convictions added, you know, like maybe they got DUI, tried to get DUI added or domestic violence added or anything like that. So I needed an update really bad for the people that I work with, even though I mostly work in housing when it comes to the people with records now, but I needed that update. So as you were speaking, you probably saw I was on my phone. I was on my phone a lot because it was referrals, and these were some of the problems that they were having, saying that the employer, one of them was Marshalls. The employer of Marshalls had hired her, had said yes, and then found out, did a background check, and basically has said that she lied. But she did not lie because it had got sealed or expunged. I forgot which one it was. Because of that, she said exactly what you said. So I just wanted to hear everything you said before I said anything. She told them the truth. And I told her, I said, you told them the truth. You did not lie, because if you got a sealing or expungement, then it is truthful for you to say no. And so
And
basically,
for marshals too, it's not like Chicago Public Schools.
exactly. And basically they said because she lied that and she did not get the job. So I want to thank you for helping me with that referral, and she will be reaching out to you also. And so I just really thank you for the information. And then also, you know, as far as talking about the healthcare waivers and everything, also, because I wanted some more update about that. I was a part of, you know, some of those bills, the healthcare waivers, as far as the park districts and the schools, whatever. But like I said, I needed an update on these things because I'm more specifically in housing right now. So I just thank you for the clarity, especially the implementation, because bills could have gotten passed years and years ago, but the implementation process, it takes ridiculously long. You know, the education is so important of it. So I just really appreciate it.
I appreciate you, because that being a part of that legislation was so important, and seeing what it was like for people before that was what really sparked me. It's what really lit my fire to do this work, and it has made a huge difference. So thank you, really, because that has made my job easier. And I'll tell you right now, there's things that I've been able to get sealed now that I would not have been able to get sealed a couple years ago, including a client recently who I was pleasantly surprised, because it was the first opportunity I had, though I've filed some additional ones in District 1 and just haven't heard back yet. But I was able to file in one of the suburbs for a client who was charged as an adult when he was a juvenile for murder. And I was able to actually successfully get that sealed. And the judge listened to my mitigating evidence and allowed that person an opportunity to talk about his life, and saying that, like, he was a kid and he wasn't even, like, he was charged and convicted for being a part of it, and he realizes, you know, yes, I wasn't the shooter, but I was part of this group.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to support my family, and it's been 30 years, and all my life was pretty much spent in prison. And this is something that the judge would have never been able to hear if not for that change in the law. He would not have even had an opportunity. So the fact that there's even the discretion to listen to the context of a lot of these offenses is incredible.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you for even sharing those backstories, which is important for the narrative. And also, if you don't mind, I just wanted to encourage anybody, if they had, if they were working with people, or if they're even on this call, to add on to what you said, Regina, because, you know, I know people get discouraged when they say, man, okay, this sealing expansion bill has passed, but I am not eligible because maybe I have one of these convictions that's not eligible. But I just want to I want people to know that it's not because of the coalition or because of us. You know, like, we weren't discriminating, like, oh, not this one, not that one, not that one. What happened is, that's why it's important for people that's directly impacted to be in the rooms, to be at the tables when it comes to passing any type of legislation, where there is local legislation, county, or state. You know, or even international legislation. The reason why is because you may not be represented in that room. So we didn't have people in there that had those cases, right? But other people with other kids, they fought for themselves, like, no, this has to be added, because the list was way longer as far as the exclusions. But it was people in the rooms that were representing, like, no, what about this? What about that? But if we would have had people in the room that represented that, and then there are, as you know, higher entities when it comes to those particular exclusions. So, like, for domestic violence, you have a lot of domestic violence organizations. For DUI, you have those organizations. So we had to, it's just like with the housing, you have to, you know, be able to work it out with the realtors, those type of entities, or unions when you're doing work as far as the schools or whatever. But So that was the thing. So if anybody has any of those convictions that's excluded, have hope. Because if we could get that legislation passed and it was us who was directly impacted, who led that, then guess what? We can come on, we can do some more work. We can do some more work.
There's more to do, and it's possible. And one of the other things that I should note is another one of the big ones that was changed because of advocates like you was with regards to the sex offenses being a big ineligible thing, just all encompassing. The exception to that is prostitution, because
Yes.
advocates recognize that it's so much more complex than just, being criminally convicted of prostitution. Like, there's also options if you're a victim of human trafficking to have that conviction vacated.
Yes.
They are starting to look at the context more around these arrests and convictions and not just seeing it black and white like that. So it matters.
Yes.
And that was incredible. So you can
Yes.
still, like, solicitation for prostitution is still ineligible, but prostitution itself is now viewed more
Exactly.
progressively and it's contextualized. So there's just so many wins along the way and so much work left to do, but it's changed. And so that's why I want people constantly revisiting things. Like, has it changed yet? Is there an exception? And there are plenty of judges too, I will say. Even the judge I was in front of today, he was saying, he's like, I hope there's a change in the law that allows me to consider this one day. So you never know.
Thank you so much.
I got time for one more question, and then I gotta shut it down because we like 5 minutes away. I was trying to do 1:30, but when you getting good knowledge and good information, we got to keep the ball rolling. But I do have to shut it down at 2. So is there any other questions?
This is not a question, but this is a statement. I am proud to work with Regina on a daily basis, and I believe that we should have her back and have some more of the people who do that daily work, even have some of the paralegals talk about some of the challenges. And I think everybody will be really informed.
I would love to come back. It was really a pleasure to be with everybody today. And thank you, Dolores, for being so nice. That's so nice coming from you, especially. Dolores has been just an OG at Legal Aid Chicago for so long. So hearing it from her is always golden.
Yes, she has it. You are correct in everything that was said.
And also, just shout out, I'm also doing Aguilar motions now, if you've ever heard of those, for aggravated UUWs, vacating those. I could give a whole other talk about that.
All right. So I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their day to be on this call. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez, for the information. This particular call will be on, it will be on our YouTube page. I'll send a link when I send out the next message in the email blast. Our next meeting is going to be on February the 18th, 2021, and hopefully I have some great news that I want to provide for everybody. But I thank everybody that was on the call, those who left, those who watched this later. Take the information. As she said, 5422 West Division, Legal Aid. We are in the office Monday through Friday, but you can call the number anytime and leave a message and somebody will get back to you. And if it's about expungement, that rap sheet should be the first thing, even before you even contact. And they are open. I don't know if it's Monday through Friday. I know
it's changed now.
Tuesday.
Beforehand.
Yeah, because they changing it every other day, every other week. But I know Tuesday through Thursday they're definitely open. And I would try to be down there as early as possible to get that rap sheet. But I want to thank Ms. Cole for putting all of this together. Thank for Capricia for all the work that she's been doing. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Thank you, Ms. Moon, Ms. Berry, Andrews, Mr. States. I see George on the line, Mr. Ortiz, Ms. Odell, Ms. Hernandez, who helped us yesterday at Overcomers. Shout out to her. And everybody that's on the call, Mr. Walker, everybody that left, thank you all We hope to see you all at the next meeting. If I don't have your email, email it to me. Hold on, let me put it in the chat real quick. It's jgreen@healthauthority.org. That is the email address to get in contact with me. If you have information, resources you want to send it to me at jgreen@healthauthority.org. Everybody have a blessed Friday. Have a good weekend, and we will see you next month.
Thank you very much.
All right.